Wouldn't it be nice to get a dividend payment every single weekday? Thanks to a new strategic move by Roundhill Investments, this is actually now possible, and you don't have to hold 30 different ETFs to do it. Roundhill just updated its distribution calendar to align with its ETF payment schedules across different days of the week. By just owning 5 groups of ETFs, you can now receive dividend payments Monday through Friday, essentially creating a daily paycheck from your investments. This is going to go into effect in July of 2025, just next month, which is really exciting to see considering many people love the frequency of weekly paying dividends and they would love a daily dividend ETF, but this is going to be the next best thing, staggering your ETFs to create dividend payments every single day. So let's break it down. This is going to be the new weekly dividend schedule at a glance. Roundhill's ETF lineup has been reorganized to stagger dividend pay dates throughout the week. The first fund is going to be WEEK, which is the weekly T-bill ETF. This is not more of an income ETF. It's more of a stable treasury bills ETF, a place to park your cash. You're not really going to grow a lot. It's going to give you about 4% annual dividend percentage split into all the weeks. The best thing about WEEK, it's not really going to drop below $100, so it's just a place to park your cash. Kind of similar to a high yield savings account. This is going to be paying on Wednesday. Next, we have the crypto covered call ETFs, YBTC and YETH, which is going to be paying on Thursday. These ETFs are going to be best for risk tolerant investors seeking income from crypto. They are covered call strategies, so they're going to offer high yield from the crypto options. And it's going to generate option premiums from Bitcoin and Ethereum. And the crypto volatility makes the yield appealing because of the higher option premiums that we're going to be making because of the increased volatility. So with these ETFs, you should be ready for some wild swings in the NAV. And next we have the 0 days to expiry cover call ETFs, which is going to be RDTE, QDT, and XDT, which is going to be paying out on every Friday. Now, a lot of ETFs already pay out on Friday, so if you want to go with your favorite weekly dividend ETF, such as ULTY, you most certainly can, but this is going to be the Roundhill's ETFs that are paying out on Friday. And these 0 day to expiry cover call ETFs are not bad at all. They are 0 days expiration options on popular indexes, such as the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100, such as the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100, as well as the Russell 2000 index. So this is a unique strategy with rapid income generation. Now next we have the Magnificent 7 cover call ETF MAGY, which is going to be paying out on Monday. And this ETF holds shares of the Magnificent 7, which is going to include stocks like Apple, Nvidia, and Tesla, the top 7 tech stocks, and it's going to sell covered calls on those stocks. So it targets the biggest tech names and sell options on those stocks in order to generate some income. And the payout date on Monday makes it very unique because you're kicking your week off with a dividend. A lot of people hate Mondays. This is something to help spice it up once you're coming out of the weekend. And it provides exposure to the 7 most influential tech stocks while also collecting an option premium. Now, lastly, we have Roundhill's weekly pay ETFs, AAPW, COIW, NVDW, PLTW, and TSLW, which is going to be Apple, Coinbase, Nvidia, Palantir, and Tesla, respectively. And it's going to be paying out every single Tuesday. Now, these ETFs are pretty unique. They're actually leveraged 1.2 times the weekly returns on these single stock underlyings. So you're going to have higher upside potential with regular payouts. And compared to these other ETFs, which are option-based ETFs, this is actually not using an option strategy, and it generates that income that pays out weekly through swap agreements. And if you're not familiar with swaps, it's a derivative contract through which two parties exchange the cash flows or liabilities from two different financial instruments. But basically, when the underlying stock goes up, the swap generates gains, and those gains are distributed to us as income. These are going to be a little bit more volatile, and they're best for speculative income seekers. With Tuesday payments, they complete the dividend week. And keep in mind, these ETFs are leveraged swaps, so the volatility is going to be a bit higher than other ETFs on this list. So in order to generate the perfect daily dividend portfolio, you want to choose one ETF from each of these groups. Now, some of these days you don't really have a choice. So for example, Wednesday, you have to buy their weekly T-bill ETF. That's your only option. But for some of these others, you can pick and choose which ones you want. So for example, Monday, we'll start off the week Monday through Friday. Monday, you would have to own MAGY, which is the Magnificent 7 covered call ETF, a very good ETF. It owns the top 7 tech stocks in the industry, and it provides you reliable weekly income. This is going to be very similar to YieldMax's MAG, the Magnificent 7 covered call ETF by YieldMax. And then for a Tuesday payment going down the week, you would choose one of these ETFs, and they are coming out with more and more weekly pay ETFs. I know a new Berkshire ETF is going to be coming out pretty soon, but for now we have these 5 on the list. And say we love Apple, we'll choose Apple for our weekly pay ETF, or you can just own a combination of all of these. And that is going to give you that payment on every single Tuesday. Now for Wednesday, we have to own our weekly T-bill ETF. And this isn't really going to grow your portfolio. It's more of like an inflation hedge or a place to park your cash, which isn't that bad. If you have a ton of uninvested cash in your brokerage, you can just plop it into WEEK and generate that 4% interest. Now, because it has T-bills inside of its holdings, it is not subject to local state taxes. You're only going to be paying taxes on income, on federal taxes. So if you're in a state such as California or New York or Seattle, where there is a high state tax, then this is going to be very beneficial for you because you're exempt from the state taxes on those dividends. That is going to give you interest every single Wednesday. Now, next we have our crypto covered call ETFs every single Thursday. Now, personally, I would choose the YBTC. It's going to have a little bit more of a higher dividend yield, and I also think that it's going to have more of a share appreciation as well. A lot of people are very bullish on Bitcoin, and this is a great ETF to hold. Now, for our last Friday payment, you could either go with the Roundhill Classics or other weekly paying ETFs from your other favorite providers, such as YieldMax, which also pay out on Friday. But for Roundhill, I would choose any of these. I personally hold shares of XDTE as well as QDT, and I've been a huge fan of these weekly paying ETFs, and they have been so popular that YieldMax actually came out with some of their own 0 days to expire covered calls ETFs on these same indexes. And because they're on popular indexes such as the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100, as well as the Russell 2000, is very diversified and tracks those overall markets. Now with that perfect portfolio, you're going to be getting cash flow 5 days in a row, which is a dividend investor's dream. Now we do have to understand that in order to receive the dividends on the pay date, we have to buy before the ex-dividend date, which is going to be in this middle column right here. And there's also risks to consider. Many of these ETFs use strategies that may return your original investment as dividends, which is going to be return of capital. And many of these ETFs, especially those weekly pay ETFs, are going to be leveraged and can fluctuate significantly. And of course, many of these ETFs are not very tax efficient because we're using covered call strategies, so it's going to be taxed as ordinary income. But this strategy is best for income chasers who want consistent weekly and daily cash to reinvest or spend, for people who want a flexible portfolio as well as consistent cash flow. It's for people who don't want to wait weeks for their dividend payments, for people who don't want to wait quarterly or monthly for dividends such as Realty Income Stock or even SCHD, which pays out quarterly dividends. And that's why these ETFs are so popular. A lot of these ETF providers are listening to us. We want our payments as soon as possible because we can use our cash sooner to reinvest in other funds when we see dips or pay off bills that come towards our way. But this is amazing. Roundhill just made it possible to receive daily dividends, something that once required dozens of funds and stocks and careful timing to do. Now with a combination of just 5 ETFs, you can structure your portfolio to deliver steady weekday income.